Kris Butera from Plutonic, one of the most enigmatic geologists on the internet. You've become a sensation on LinkedIn, and it's a real privilege to work with you because I think people ask me about you more than they ask about much of the other stuff that we're doing. So here's a video that's going to go out to them. Mate, we've invested in Plutonic as a very unique thing. We don't invest in exploration except very sparingly. And when we do, we want to be in a situation where we think there is a really good chance of making money. But if things go right, well, let's make it something big rather than just incremental gains. And that's what we see in Plutonic. We think it's absolutely unique. I think a lot of people still don't understand really what it's all about. And it's not because of what Plutonic is, it's because you're a genuine explorer. Most people don't understand what a genuine explorer is. And Plutonic is like no other company I know, which makes it even more unique. It's got two huge targets, which are early stage, but huge targets. Kris, what do you mean by huge targets?
Oh, well, thank you, mate. Yeah, huge, what does huge mean? It means very big. We've got now Georgetown, which we understand to be about 100 square kilometres, right, in size of what appears to be a fully preserved porphyry epithermal system.
Is that the footprint you're looking within?
That's the footprint. That's where all of our data suggests that there are anomalies at depth or targets epithermal all the way down to the bottom of the system. So we're talking about 100 kilometres, 10 by 10 kilometres by down to 3 kilometres depth of different types of targets that are gold, predominantly gold, but gold and copper potential, right? So over time. And to put that into perspective, Cadia, which is probably a largest gold system, has a footprint of about 14 square kilometres.
So got to find something which could be large within a very large area. And
that's exactly right.
I think until recently at Georgetown, there's something other exciting we've got to get onto in a second, but finishing on Georgetown, I think the target system that I'm going to say we were looking at, because I love working with you there, was intrusion-related gold. Now, we've kind of flipped over from that to the epithermal porphyry spectrum. What was the key piece of evidence which has ticked us off on that?
Oh, I guess, we've drilled the targets. They look like intrusion-related, and we can clearly see that they used to be intrusion-related. They've been overprinted by a porphyry, and we can tell that from the alteration. So the types of alteration, the sequence and zonation of the alteration, and of course the epithermal veins sticking out the surface. So the epithermal means low temperature, so high up close to the surface. We're already aware that they were there, but not having the context until we drilled. So before we drilled, we thought, okay, well maybe these things are similar to what some people have been saying recently about along strike. We've got Agate Creek, a known epithermal system, 500,000 ounces. A lot of recent work has suggested that they were epizonal intrusion-related gold. So that sort of fitted our model, but now we can see that the alteration overprints what was an intrusion-related system or a series of intrusion-related systems. And we're talking over an extent of about 7.5 kilometres minimum. That's the distance between our furthest drill holes. But the quite intense alteration, veining, breccia, hydrothermal breccias, everything we expect to see in a what's called a telescope porphyry epithermal system. So multiple 10 to 12 kilometre linear structures that these things seem to sit on. And I think it's taken us back from, okay, well, we thought we had a couple of nice moderate sized intrusion-related gold systems or potential for, but now we've basically got 2 or 3 parallel 10 kilometre structures that, at surface and at depth in the drilling, high geochemistry, the right type of geochemistry for epithermal through a transitional environment to the deeper stuff, the intrusive stuff at the bottom, the vein textures, the magmatic hydrothermal breccias, again, all these things are signs that you have a fully preserved system.
So I think the exciting thing for me from what you've said then and what we've recently announced is we've gone from needing to do our own first drilling, looking for something that we thought was the most likely target system, and now all of a sudden we actually have the right rocks corresponding with the alteration that we've found, and we know that there's pregnancy for metals within the system because that actually matches the metal geochemistry that we had at the surface, which has got gold in it. So
absolutely.
Big tick, big target, early days.
Absolutely. Early days, but a much bigger target than what we thought we had, basically. So very pleased.
Well, speaking of much bigger, let's move to the Northern Territory, which is, I'm not sure which is your first love anymore, because Georgetown was there and you've always been dragging me back towards it, and I can see exactly why now. I think I was probably guilty of saying we need to spend more time on Champion, so push and pull. Champion, of course, is in the Northern Territory. Bigger again. So what's a snapshot of that?
Well, Champion's about 65 times the size of Georgetown, so that the surface expression of outcropping veins, there's big veins with epithermal textures, metals, all sorts of things. There's 3,200 square kilometres that are easily observable, but with peg ground of up to about 6,500 square kilometres, which sort of takes in the full extent of the system. So you can imagine 50-kilometre wide corridor where we see the same sorts of veins. Again, these are epithermal veins that have been, in a lot of cases, overprinted or recrystallised and have had copper pumped into them. So, low sulfidation epithermal systems tend to be gold, silver rich, and we're seeing gold and silver, but also a lot of copper, which we just collected another 300 odd samples from the Asgard Dome project on the western side.
Yep.
And lots of copper up to 0.3%.
Can we dive into that? Because when I visited you in the desert mid last year, I collected a rock, you cut it for me, and it's quartz rich. It's got some sort of iron staining on it. And this is just veining, right? But the iron staining is interesting. It's got copper sulfides in it, which are at surface. Not tremendously high grade, but it shows that copper which has come from somewhere. We were just comparing that rock this morning from another rock that you brought from the Asgard Dome. These two rocks are 50 kilometres apart, but look identical and contain copper. Yeah. So, I mean, is this enigmatic, or is this a footprint of something which is super exciting?
Oh no, this is the largest epithermal system in the world. And again, these epithermals, there's two types of epithermals. And for those that don't know, there are the standard Pajingo style, the basinal, extensional style stuff like we get in North Queensland. So everyone talks about Pajingo because it's a 4 million ounce system that's produced well for Newmont over the years and subsequent miners. And that's a beautiful 4 million ounce gold system. But these are formed in extensional structures. The other types of epithermals, what you get in the Andes, which are directly related to, or Philippines or Indonesia, that are directly related to get big, intrusive, usually porphyry copper systems of depth. And so we think that the copper is being introduced into these epithermal veins post the gold event. So low sulfidation. And again, this is another example of what they call a telescope porphyry epithermal system. It just happens on a huge scale. And when you look where we are, we sit at the bottom of the old North Australian Crouton. And so this has been debated, but the most recent work sort of suggests that, or from our work in particular with age dates and stuff, is that we're in a Cordilleran arc setting, which basically means a continental margin similar to that in the Andes, so halfway through the South American continent. And these things generate these mega-sized systems. They're absolutely huge, both for copper and all the gold, silver nearby. So, places like Yanacocha for high sulfidation epithermals, and certainly lots of low sulfidation. I don't speak Spanish, so I'm not going to pretend that I can say this thing. So we'll move on. But there are some world-class examples of everything there, from porphyries through to high and low sulfidation epithermal systems.
So we've got some tremendous evidence that we're sitting atop within something which has got an enormous footprint as that kind of credential in terms of how much mineralisation is potential to be in that. Early days for us though, so we haven't drilled there. We've got geochem. Where do you think we go with Champion?
I think we are ready to drill now, so that's hopefully what we're doing early next year. We're just pending final cultural heritage clearances and weather and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I expect that we're drilling our first 4 targets next year. So we've got a long pipeline of targets at various stages of readiness, I guess. Asgard Dome now moving up to sort of getting close to that area as well. So we'll keep working on that one. But we've got Redonculus, I'm Not a Vampire, Perseverance, and what used to be McLovin, now Loki North Prospect. All these are coincident geochemical and geophysical anomalies with outcropping veins in most cases.
Yep.
Redonculus is undercover, so we don't know exactly what that is, other than it's absolutely huge.
And it's next to the I'm Not a Vampire
It's
vein.
next to the known I'm Not a Vampire epithermal system. So,
I mean, one of the things I love about Plutonic is if Plutonic finds something, the potential for value creation could eclipse anything else we do in line. So might be a long shot, but there's lots and lots and lots of those long shots for that type of explosive value creation.
Plutonic, in my views, is the only company in your portfolio that could turn you into $1 billion company in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Just because that's how we're leveraged.
Yeah.
That's we're not making incremental gains. We're not putting things into production and waiting for the next stage of the cycle. We have set ourselves up with these supersized targets on supersized projects that could potentially deliver that on the back of a couple of drill holes if we're lucky. And again, to put that in perspective too, we talk about size. Georgetown is the second largest probably single target area in Australia, only after Champion. So the two most prolifically prospective systems in this country are owned by Plutonic.
So can I ask one final question to bring us to the finishing post there? I think there's a lot of people who invest in the early stage of mining and they're like, oh, this is great. You put 50 grand into this company and it turns into something much more than that. You sit there and wait and it just happens. We're at a very early stage here. So, my view of Plutonic is we're chipping away until we find the best piece of evidence that we can chase into making a discovery. But the point is that we don't know when that's going to happen. Yeah. We just know we need to keep collecting data. So the question for you is, is this something that will unfold into a major discovery in the next 12 months? Or is this a labour of love that is going to require an iterative process?
Oh, it could be either. We're always going to work towards making this as sustainable as possible. So we could run out, stick holes here, there and everywhere like most people do and don't find anything.
Yep.
Or we can do what we've been doing, which is, it doesn't necessarily appear that we have a strategy in play, but we certainly do. We've got significant amount of geophysical, geochemical, geochronological and structural data, probably well beyond what most people collect. But we're not doing it to make one discovery. We're doing it to make discovery sustainable over the next 20 or 30 years.
Yep.
So we could be exploring out there over the next 20 or 30 years, but I suspect that we'll hit something in the next 3.
Outstanding.
If not the next 6 months.
Well, I got to tell you, mate, I'm excited for this. And it's not just because Lion has invested. I work with you inside Plutonic, so I get to live and breathe this as well. And it's kind of satiating my geo bent at the same time as I'm working on something which could be of excitement for a generation to come. So, this is unique in the market, and I'm so pleased that we've got a piece of it. So,
great that you're working with us as well.
Good on you, mate. Nice to chat to you.